coming from the great American Southwest, from the very low desert. Good morning, good evening, whatever the case may be to all my listeners around the world. I'm your host, Lionel Tavares, from the Sabbath at Midnight, and always blessed to be here by the Lord Jesus Christ himself. So tonight we are bringing back a guest for the second time. Brian Reese from Visual Disturbance is his YouTube. He's also on FOJC Radio with David Carrico and John Pounders and all those very wonderful gentlemen of Christ. So we're bringing him back on the show. We're going to be going to detail of cryptids, and we're going to be discussing how this whole phenomenon of this obsession with cryptids has just popped out of nowhere, and not out of nowhere, but it's just been gaining a lot of steam, and to the point where I see Christians just losing, the main focus, which is Jesus, and just go on a 3-hour tangent about how cool Bigfoot or Dogman or some reptile thing that eats children is. I mean, come on, guys, let's wake up a little bit. So, but before you do that, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, subscribe. We're on Instagram, TikTok, the whole nine. So please, if you haven't, subscribe. It will help us keep the lights on. If you want to donate to the show, we have information in the bio. Also, if you want to become a member on Buzzsprout, it's $7 a month. You get access to some episodes that are members only, but at the end of the day, it's just to help the show grow and support us. But if you can't, it's okay. You guys are listeners. You're my audience, and you guys are beautiful for that. Without you guys, there wouldn't be no show. So let's get ready for a very exciting episode, and let's move forward. Welcome back, everybody, to the show, The Sabbath at Midnight. I'm your host, Lionel Tavares. As always, blessed and glad to be here by the Lord Jesus Christ himself, along here with my co-host, Dominic. And tonight, or this afternoon, it is a beautiful Sunday afternoon in California. It is about 1 p.m. The time's a little bit ahead over there where our friend Brian is at. Where are you at again? What state?
Kentucky.
Fried chicken right there. So we brought him back on. We're going to be talking a little bit about cryptids again, but we're going to do this a little bit different. We're going to go down a different route. We're going to talk about these things, and we're going to find out what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And then we're going to go through the Bible and see what that has to say about these things. We're going to do it that way. So before we get into that, really quick, for our guests, out of all due respect, I would like for you to introduce yourself to all the audience who may not know you yet, and just tell us where to find your websites, your YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you again for another opportunity coming on here with you guys. It's my second appearance on Sabbath to Midnight, so bless you so much, Dominic and Lionel. So I'm Visual Disturbance, a.k.a. Brian Reese, born and raised in Kentucky. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, you name it. You can find me about anywhere. So if you want to follow me on there, on YouTube, all that good stuff, I would appreciate it. It'd be an opportunity to be part of the Visual Disturbance community, and we would be blessed to see you guys over there on the Visual Disturbance side of things. But yeah, guys, it's an honor to be here once again and be part of this podcast.
Thank you for all that. That's a very nice to hear, because I've been working at this thing for a while now. It's been about 6 years, I would say, and finally we're getting some traction, but moving forward. And that's, all thank you to the audience and Jesus Christ himself. I mean, if he didn't want this podcast going, it would just fail. So it's been growing every day. That's a good thing. And I just want to continue going down that path and try not to sell my soul when things get a little better. You know what I mean? Because I see a lot of YouTubers, they come up and then they're talking about God, and then all of a sudden they're just talking about, some kind of weird pornography thing, because that's when they sell their soul, right? To get advertisements, and you know what I mean? They want to start selling things, and maybe the things they're selling don't go with what they believe in. Does that make any sense? You ever seen this before? For example, you're following an Instagram page, right? And let's just say it's about Corvettes, right? It's a Corvette fan page. You like all the Corvettes, and then one day you see a picture or video from them. It's a girl half naked, and it's an advertisement. That's when I say when people sell themselves out. I would never do that. So it's always going to be the Sabbath at midnight. I'm not going to be peddling anything that's not biblical. Like selling, Bigfoot t-shirts or, Dogman stuff. And, I wouldn't sell stuff like that because it's not something that I think Jesus would want us to be selling and wearing. So now that we're on the subject, I would like to talk about this. So the first thing I want to talk about, which is very popular in this community, almost to the point where these things are like gods to people, and the people that talk about it are like their priest. Bigfoot. That's all I hear about, on these Christian podcasts. These things, to me, from all the information that I've gathered from, like Travis and his father, he, spent his whole life, looking for these things. And he got samples, DNA samples. They tested it. All that information could be, we'll put those in the links, but they found out that, the DNA is like those skulls in Peru. They have the DNA from the mother, but the father is not found because that information doesn't exist on this earth. So it's the same kind of DNA. So the father of these things are not from here. Now, if you're a Christian and you've been listening to this for a while, when I say they're not from here, I'm not saying they're from Mars or Jupiter, all that nonsense. They're from another dimension, from a higher heaven, from the extra dimensional realm. What do you think about that?
Well, when you really process this and you go to the biblical narrative, like we're discussing tonight, and you go back to Genesis 6, verse 4, you even go back to the sons of God made with the daughters of men, same scenario, and then you go back and look at the foundation was laid, and Jesus was there, God was there, the Trinity was there with the foundation laid of what we have today, the earth. And you think about it, and you think about what these, let's just say, entities, angels had, right? These abilities they had, what kind of knowledge they had. And I think when you were talking about this specific topic about Bigfoot, there's something to it. Like you said a minute ago, interdimensional beings, absolutely. On a different type of playing field, absolutely. Well, if you go back to the biblical narrative, the sons of God, and a lot of people get into debate today and say, well, we are the sons of God. We've always been the sons of God. Well, we're the sons of God because of what Christ did now. Like Christ laid his life down on Calvary, right? At Golgotha, the place of the skull. And with that, when he paid the sin death, we become the sons of God. Like when you go back to the Old Testament Genesis narrative, these are talking about different entities altogether. And when you comprehend that, and a lot of people just cannot process it because we've been bamboozled into believing rhetoric from folks to just, let's just say, tread the fence on their own, let's just say, human construct of their translation. And they don't really get to the meat and the bones of what the Bible's saying. They gaslight you with a bunch of rhetoric. And when you think about these interdimensional beings, these whole concept, well, that's what we're looking at today, like Nephilim, Bigfoot, right? Raphaim, the Raphims after the flood, right, of Noah. And when you think about that and process it, you can't detach, like people detach from that. They say, well, that the Old Testament's done away with, blah, 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 and there's nothing else. But when you go to the media, and like the people you was referring to earlier, they're embracing aliens. They're embracing things that go bump in the night, and they want you to worship them or idolize them. So I see your point. But then back in the day, back in Noah's time, before the floods came, they knew what these things was. The book of Job knew. Like Job knew who these things was, what these entities was. And now we sit here and we go hunting for them or what have you, and it's gonna bring something back. But I have a whole nother. I mean, we're gonna go down some rabbit holes today and some what ifs and speculation. Yeah. But then I really want to kind of open up the broadcast to say, look, these creatures, you shouldn't seek them out. You shouldn't seek them out because listen, they're always around. That's the whole, paradigm buster. They're always around, Lionel. They're always around, Dominic. And we're entertaining angels unaware. And people are literally, I hope people are, but people, that's why I like doing these type of podcasts, because I hope and pray people are waking up to things are not what has been seen, like what has been told in our reality.
Yeah, go ahead, Don. If you have anything to say, go ahead. You just pop in whenever you can.
No, I mean, I agree. These entities are, and I know there's a lot of stories out there that, well, not a lot. There's a few stories out there where this creature Bigfoot has helped people. Okay, And there's other stories like Alaska where these Bigfoot tore apart a bunch of men. And then you got David Pilates, who talks about how people go missing. And you guys are talking about the interdimensional aspect of it, and that's and you look at, well, I want to connect that to Scott Carpenter when he has that video of that portal opening up and that Bigfoot coming out.
Oh yeah.
So my thing is about missing 411 is these Bigfoots are just snatching people, unbeknownst to the persons they're with or walking behind. And I know there's a lot more information on Bigfoot, but I agree with you that it shouldn't be should be worshipped.
Yeah.
Should be worshipped in any way. And I know Lionel's talking about the T-shirts and stuff. And for me, I wouldn't wear it because for me that's honoring, paying homage to a Nephilim.
Mm.
And what happened in the old times, in the ancient times, these people were worshiping the gods. So when you start paying homage to these creatures with T-shirts and making it fluffy and cute, and that gets into an aspect like what I would call the priest of Bigfoot. But that's it for me. I mean, keep
Yeah.
going. I like what you're saying.
Cool. So check this out. So along with all that, moving forward now, there are some very weird creatures like this in biblical history, and there's one specifically that comes off as if a Nephilim could be saved. Now, I don't know how much of this story is true, but Saint Christopher. Okay, now Saint Christopher, a little bit of details on him is he has this whole background story that he was this giant man with a dog head, right? In every picture, he's depicted with a dog head. Now, a lot of people were saying that it's just a metaphorical thing, but then we found ancient artifacts, armor that belonged to this person, and the armor was in the shape of a dog head. So to me, that's going pretty far to make up a lie. What makes more sense, that they made that up for fun, or that's what he was built like? Makes more sense that maybe he was a dog-headed man. Now, the story goes is that he wanted to worship the most powerful God. And I'm going to make the story quick. Long story short, he thought Satan was the most powerful God because Satan had all these things to give. He could give money, women, drugs, whatever, right? So this guy wanted just to serve the most powerful God. And I forgot how it happened, but he ended up helping a little boy and put him on his neck to cross the river because he was a giant. He was supposed to be like, I think, like the waist, like the owls, the way like 7.5 feet tall or something, a huge guy, right? With the dog head, apparently. So he helped this boy cross the river because he was tall enough to walk him on his head. And when he had him on his head, he said, the story goes, he felt heavy, like it was so heavy. And then the story goes that he was, being preached by God. This little boy was preaching to him on his neck, and it happened to be God. And after that moment, he found out that God was the most powerful God and started worshiping him. Have you ever heard this story of St. Christopher, Brian, the dog-headed man?
Yeah, briefly. Yeah. And, just to interject real quick, it's interesting that it's always the children or the women involved in these stories. Have you ever noticed that? Like, and I just keep going, though. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, are these things redeemable? If that is true, if this thing was a dog-headed man and it is a saint, I mean, this thing could be real, but maybe it really wasn't a saint. We don't know. We weren't there, but this is how it's depicted. Now, to me, when these people say, oh, Bigfoot helped somebody, this right here situation looks like kind of that situation. But it doesn't mean these things are good all the time. Like, for example, I could go help some little kid and have a bad day tomorrow and go beat somebody up in a road rage traffic thing. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're good all the time, is my point. So what do you think about that story? What do you think when these things help people? Do you think they're doing it sadistically or to get something in return, or what?
The first thing I think of is when I think about the whole, like I mentioned earlier, Genesis 6 verse 4, and I think about what I've read in other literature when it talks about Native American tribes, where their women and children would be taken by these large men. In a lot of cases in Kentucky and other parts of the Appalachian Mountains where there's these large hairy-like creatures, in some cases 6 fingers, 6 toes, which the Bible speaks about. And in some cases it's 5 fingers, 10 fingers, 10 toes.
Yeah.
And they'll be 8 to 10 feet tall. They'll take the women and children. And in some case, here's the pros and the cons, or there's not really many pros, but the cons is as you eradicate your history, your family tree goes down in smoke. Like they poof, it's over. And these, tribal leaders are like completely confused, because here's the catch. Like a lot of these stories are talking about that they gave them knowledge. These tall individuals, these tall entities gave the Native Americans or these tribes knowledge, like metallurgy, being able to make things of technological advancements to the tribe, and fire, etc. But here's the exchange for it. Hey, can we have some of your tribe? And in many cases, I think we might have mentioned this in the last podcast we did together, but there are many cases that there's these Native Americans that went back to war with these creatures. They would follow them out to the woods and say, "Hey, we've had enough. You're evaporating. You're taking away my genetic right to have a family tree. My being fruitful and multiply. You're eradicating it. You're making us basically be obsolete for my tribal leader in my tribe." So it doesn't ever work out. Period. And I think it's been going on for thousands and thousands. I mean, since the beginning of since the fall of man. Like, I think this has been going on, and this is when you get into. We don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but this is when you get into the reality of what now, when you see trafficking. I'm trying to watch what I say because I'm going to respect your channel, but trafficking and things like that to that level, you see it, and it's continuously the same thing. And you think about, well, who taught that? Like who taught these people, these evil individuals that continue these traditions and this evilness to extract people and take people? I mean, it's of the fallen, like fallen angels. We talked about Mount Hermon last time, the great I don't call them great, but the 200 watchers that taught man all these different things. And then that's why you have the residue of these giant entities. Well, here's the thing. Is Bigfoot, is these creatures descendants of the fallen creatures, like these fallen entities? Do they come from the Nephilim bloodline? Are they an offset? And I remember, since you spoke of Scott Carpenter, I remember doing an interview with him, and he was talking about a kid that one time there was, I can't remember where it was at, but there was a story of these Sasquatch, these Bigfoot, where this kid got kidnapped. And I think he was a couple years old at the time, 3 or 4, if my memory serves me correct. And then all of a sudden, there's people, these rangers and stuff, find these kids because there was a report of there was this kid walking around, but he was like hairy. Well, I remember this was a couple years ago, speaking to Scott, and he was talking about something miraculous happened. I wouldn't call it miraculous, but he, as far as it was fascinating to, let's just say, a scientific level, this boy, his hair follicles started growing like super fast. And they don't know if it's something to do with being around the Sasquatch, where they're, here's my take. I think there's something radiation level, like they're resonating something that we don't. Because you never can find one. There's no evidence. You can't find one. But then there's evidence of giants. There's evidence of Nephilim. So could it be that we've been gaslit so much when it comes to the Nephilim, the Raphaim, the Amorites, the Hittites, all these giants? It's in the Bible. But could we also have remnants of bone structures and the anatomy of these ancient, let's just say these Bigfoot, and we can't differentiate between the original state, the Nephilim, the larger ones, the bigger ones, and then the Raphaim, the smaller versions, right? Could we really be having that? The tibulas, these huge body parts, like, where are we at, guys? Like, where are we at? So, like, that kid, apparently, I think he was 13 or 12 when they found him. He was resembling, like, he spoke English a little bit, but he had already been mingling with them for so long, like 10 years. And he had hair all over his body, like a Sasquatch. So what is that? Like, what is it?
That's wild, bro.
So it reminded me keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going, because it reminded me what you were speaking of about the wolf-like character.
A werewolf? So you said saw, they said they saw the hair grow quick, like right in front of them? That's crazy. Is that what you said?
No, they were just saying, that they stole this child, and then he had the ability to his hair follicles grow, because they went and studied the kid after they found him. And he was able, they could tell by his blood type, where they took analysis, took his blood type and then everything, and made sure that they had the hair follicles represented something that was not of a child, of a 12 or 13-year-old.
That's wild.
So they thought it was the atmosphere, like the forestry.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, it's all, I know. It's gaslighting.
Yeah, okay,
I know. Yeah, okay,
That reminds me of the story. So you said that's there's also these hairy, these heavy looking kids. It's also in this book that's supposed to be based on true events. It's called The Mysteries of the Solomon Islands. I bought this book like 10 years ago for like $15. Little did I know that thing is a gem. I went back to look at it again. It's going for like $1,000. They don't make it no more. And this book is an absolute gem. If you guys haven't read it, get a PDF file or something. But this book has the most detail I've ever heard about a Bigfoot or Nephilim, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say Bigfoot because they're described as hairy men in this book. And this guy is telling this story like it's a he's documenting his explorations in the Solomon Islands. And the book is so crazy. I mean, this happens like in the 1800s, this book is written. And he talks about like every night, the locals will say there's dragons in the sky. You look up, there's like these UFOs that look, those UFOs look like snakes. So they were seeing those things already. They were calling them dragons, right? So on and on it goes. He lives there for years, right? He ends up, looking for these things, right? He said there was islands there that were made of rubies, emeralds, all this crazy stuff he was saying in this book, right? But what caught my attention when we started talking the history of these hairy men that came to the island, and he got the story from the locals, and they all came. This is what they said. They said they came on reed rafts. I don't know how to say reed rafts, like, and they were all naked apparently, right? And they brought no women. That's what was the story, right? And same story, they got there, they started, making it their home, and the first thing they started doing is they need women, right? They started looking for women to, to have kids with, and lo and behold, the anatomy doesn't work. Some of these women would die from this act. It's very sad and disgusting. This isn't in his book. So the way he described it is that, so he ended up meeting these things. So after, getting in touch with the locals said, there's still a tribe over here. And, they take him to it. And this guy says that there's this whole tribe in the Solomon Islands of these things still alive, right? And the one thing that stood out that, that I remember the most when he was talking about them mating, right? He said that the big ones are too big to mate with women for very obvious reasons, right? But he said that the ones like up until a certain age, 11, 12, 13, 14, those things are old enough and the anatomy is, the right fit for a woman. So basically he's saying these things are breeding and kidnapping women now when they're adolescents, so they could, have kids with these things. And yeah, dude, and there's even a story how you have a half baby, half, whatever these thing is. And dude, the book is crazy, man. You guys got to check it out.
Well, in 2019, if my memory serves me correct, I think it was in Germany, and I think another country, I'm going to try to watch what I say, it starts with a C, had their hands in that. It was a chimera, a chimera. And I think it was like a 40%. I think I mentioned this to you on last podcast. There was a gorilla female, and I think they injected it somehow with human DNA and monkey DNA, and voila, you have yourself a super soldier. And it was a male, the baby. And I think it was 60% gorilla and 40% human. And that thing's born, by the way. That was in 2019. So do the math. There's 6 years of, let's just say, there's your high-tech human, let's just say fallen angel Nephilim.
Yep.
You've made one in a lab. I mean, it's just facts. And see, this is what I'm saying. You can't, that's a fact.
Yep.
So the book you're reading there, it's probably, there's a lot there that's probably legitimately happened.
Dude, it even goes in to an historical document that you can look up on the internet, a newspaper article, because this story goes all the way to Australia. So let me just get into this because it's a wild story, bro. So he ends up befriending the young Bigfoot, whatever it is, this thing, right? He ends up befriending it, and and he sees how strong this thing is, right? So this guy has an idea. I'm gonna take this dude to Australia and put bets on him on boxing matches. Dude, and the article of this story, you can find this newspaper article from a long time ago in Australia. So the story goes, they took him to Australia to do a boxing match. They said the thing punched the guy one time, half his hand sunk through his chest and killed the guy on the spot, and that's what came out on the newspaper. It doesn't say it was a hairy man, just said a big man punched him and killed the guy. So that you could trace that back to a newspaper article. Wild, bro. Wild. You got to read this book.
So when you said that, when this is totally off the subject, but when you said that about, so let me get this straight. You talking about the fist going in and puncturing?
Yeah. So he hit so hard that it just got.
You could see it. You could see it.
Yeah, caved his chest in. That's how strong it was. And the guy that he fought was like a giant, like he was like the champion heavyweight Russian guy, 240. Not a small guy.
Yeah. So if you look back in the Monroe Institute and you look about what they did with harmonics and frequency and in different types of color, like blues, purples, greens, and everything, and they would give you this very simplistic listing of things to do. You literally go into a altered state, and you would either go in a black room, dark, no light, and you would just meditate, and you would like put different numbers in, like in your head, like 555, blah blah blah, whatever, right? And repetitiveness. And you would focus on the color red, focus on the color purple. And if I remember correctly, they said that you can like focus on strength. Like there was a certain color, I can't remember which one it was specifically, but you could have this number in your mind that you keep repetitively saying, and your strength would intensify wherever you thought about so your fist, your back, your legs, and you could present, or you could demonstrate some type of like superhuman strength. This was done, guys.
Yeah.
So where's that from?
Yeah.
Like you see what I'm saying? Was this being that you're referring to, could it have had those types of things just all built in?
It might be just already there.
Yeah.
Because monks could do this ability, but it takes them decades to do it. You have to pray until like they're 90 to finally get this power down. So humans can do it. So that's a fact. I've seen the video, man. I've seen those videos where those people, they're on top of the mountain. It's like negative 10 degrees outside. They pour water on these people, which you would be dead, and they dry instantly. They figured out a way how to raise their body temperature, lower their body temperature. They could, like you said, they focus on, whatever they're going to hit, and they could, bend metal, whatever crazy stuff they do. And I think that's all built into these things that they already have, and, forgive the language here, it's going to sound a little new agey, but their chakras, right? Whatever these things have, they're already like powered up already. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I say.
Let's just go ahead, Dominic. Go ahead, Dominic. I've been talking too much. Go ahead, my friend.
No, you're good. Discussing if there are any good Nephilim. In my opinion, they have their own personalities, right?
Yeah.
Like when you look at the lion men of Moab during the time of King David, and the lion men of Gad who helped King David. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can be redeemed, because they are a creation against the against what God says. So they're basically an abomination against the Holy Spirit. So can they be redeemed? I don't think so. I really don't think so, because they are an abomination.
But you ever thought about it, that it's not their choice?
Yeah, it's not their choice, but it doesn't matter. It's still abomination.
But there's no 100% answer in the Bible that says they can't go to heaven.
Well, the Raphaim means the dead.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother topic. But yeah. But I'm
a little iffy on that, because it's like a kid being born through rape. Like, this kid's an abomination now. So I don't know if they could be saved or not, but I don't think that the answer is no, because like I said, it's not their choice. They're being born in the world, and who's to say, to assume that there hasn't been a good one? There's a billion years between us and now, and to say that not one in history might possibly been good, I don't know. It's a little bit too for sure for me, for something that I don't have all the information on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in full agreement with you. I mean, when it comes to that, yeah, I agree. Like, but I was referring to like literally creatures. Like, I get what you're saying, but one thing I will mention, I think it's in Genesis either 11 or 14, if my memory serves me correct, talking about the war. Like, you have the war of the Nephilim kings, right? So, like, if you look at that, and there was one tribe specifically that talked about fighting alongside of Abraham, like the Abraham seed. Like, so kind of what you're getting at there, Lionel, I see where your point is. Okay. Like, so you have to think about that. You have to take that into accountability, but like, it's up to God. Like, but I totally agree with Lionel and Dominic. Like, I'm, on both sides. Like, I see where your points is, your focal points on both sides of the fence here. So, a lot to take in, a lot to ponder on, guys. I mean, we're going down the deep of it today, and I love that we're going through a biblical stance. I like it. I love it.
Like, for example, if that St. Christopher guy was a dog-headed man, there it is. There's your first Nephilim that we know about being saved right there. So, and the only thing that people argue with is that, it's not a true story. Well, prove to me it's not a true story. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I'm gonna keep it right here. So you're referring. Let me get this straight. So you're referring to a dog-like creature, like man,
Saint
right?
Christopher is one of the
Saint
saints
Christopher. Yeah,
listed in the Catholic Church, the Christians,
yeah,
the Protestants.
yeah,
Everybody knows who Saint Christopher is, and he's always been depicted as a dog-headed man. You can Google it right now, and his
yeah,
armor and all his stuff that he owned is in the shape of a dog.
yeah. I'm familiar with the story. I just want to make sure I verified it here
Yeah.
for the viewer's sake. So it's kind of ironic that you bring this up. So, like, if you think about this, you think about Skinwalker Ranch, you think about everything that's going on over in Utah. They have literally factual information, video footage, guys, like of showing these dog-like creature men walking around.
Oh wow.
And but I want to throw this out here and see what your all's take is. So there's a term, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before. I've mentioned it many times on my channel, but it's called the Nunnehï. Okay, the Nunnehï are immortal. Okay, they're invisible spirits. Okay, so they are literally from Cherokee mythology. All right, but what they describe these characters as little people, and it's totally different from what you're referring to. I get it. Little people that live under the ground, dwellings, right? And I mentioned this many times. I said the term Manikuabu. So Manikuabu is literally a term. There was a Brazilian tribal leader talking about this on a podcast with literally a tribal leader and just some random guy, and showed the tribal leader, hey, look, what's this character on this picture? And it was literally a alien gray. He goes, Manikuabu, right? So, like, when you think about the ant people, you think about the Manikuabu, you think about a little gray, right? A little tiny character, right? The anatomy of a gray creature. So, but what a lot of people don't know about, the Nunnehy are literally, they can live anywhere. So let me explain. So they're in my neck of the woods. You can find them in Kentucky, etc. You can find them in all over the place, okay, in the Appalachian Mountain area. But here's the cool part, just to bring it into your point with the dog-headed man shaped like creature, right? So they have what they'll go for. They'll stay in places where it's sacred, right? These sacred lands where they was paid homage to, and people, these tribes for all these years have worshipped them. When they died off and everything, and their ancestors die off, whatever, they continue to roam the land, supposedly in a spiritual sense, like we referred to earlier with the interdimensional hypothesis. Okay, so if you process all this, they also have supernatural abilities. They also have invisibility. They also have, here's the kicker, shape-shifting. So shape-shifting, and even this, guys, time manipulation. Hello out there. So time manipulation. So if you really focus on this, could it be like this, Lionel? Could it be like this, Dominic? That these things are, you know how the Bible's talking about, they come to you like an angel of light. You know, you're talking about these angels, right? Talking about Satan, the devil, all these different things. Could it be that these creatures, these Nunnehy come, and they're like, hey, let's represent a werewolf or a dogman. Let's see if the kid will be like, hey, it's just like a book. It's like the big bad wolf, right? The Three Little Pigs, like, hey, it's just a kid book, right? Or what have you. But it might be folklore, and literally like the Cherokee mythology might literally be something to it. So it's like fracturing the mind and saying, hey, this stuff is not real. It's just all make believe sunshine, right? But what if that character that you're referring to is legit, but it was a shapeshifter? Just think about it. And then, the Catholic Church has been well known to, let's just talk about the UFO phenomenon and all these different supernatural things. And what if it's that? What if it's that, Lionel? Like, what if it's something to that level, and we're literally looking at a Manikuabu, little Nunnehy running around shape-shifting and showing itself, hey, I got abilities, and you referred to, what was it? Would they say that he was like, it was like he was in the presence of God, correct?
Yeah. The little kid was the God talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, could it be that the Nunnehy are one and the same, and that's one, like, they're it's really crazy. So let me explain this. The Nunnehy also, what I've researched on this, if you are of an ancestral bloodline of the Cherokee path, they monitor. This is going to blow your mind. They monitor the families. They like lurking behind, and like literally just in behind the shadows, and watch and monitor. This is what they say. Okay, these are the counts. And if you do something to what they don't like to see abuse, They don't like to see anything to do with a man going crazy, berserk, hitting anybody to do with a female or anything to do with hurting children. They will come after you. This is the account. And then guess what? You have these giants show up, and guess what? You got, eradication of the genome. And it makes you wonder if they're literally watching so deep, if it's something so like the Truman Show, and these Nunnehy are like, hey, I'm just going to go in there and take out this whole tribe. Hey, I'm going to take out, they don't deserve our help, blah, 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 whatever. So what if it's something to that level, and the Nunnehï thing has a distinct, it's connected to the Cherokee people, or it could be something to do with a totally different aspect of it. But that's where I'm going. I think it's something to that level. And then they show themselves as like Dogman, show themselves as Bigfoot, show themselves as Mothman. And either the fear tactic to keep them away from them. You feel me? Like don't get too close to me. You know what I mean? Like, don't touch me. Like, and it's like, hey, go away. Negative, right? Go away. Or is it because it's always the men having a conflict with the creatures, right? You don't never hear a story of a woman and a whole tribe of women say, hey, we're going to go get, we got javelins, we got arrows, we got everything, we got swords, and we're going to hunt these things down. Never have. It's always the men. So it makes you wonder, what is that? What's your all's take on that? Do y'all know about the Nunnehï?
I do know a little bit about it, but with the whole thing that you said, them disguising it, may be, but I'm going to lean more towards that it's actually what it is, because the footprints, they find footprints of these things. So to me, that's not like an illusion. That's like an actual creature. And then the impressions of the foot show the weight of the creature. We also got claw marks on trees. We got bite marks. So yes, I think it's possible that these things could do some kind of hologram and scare you. But I also 100% believe there's also these things are 100% real with their own anatomy and their own bodies.
Well, I think they take on the flesh, though. That's what I was referring. Let me clarify. I think they really manifest, and they take it on the flesh in that manner. I really do. It's really scary.
To me, to me, that would be giving those alien things too much power for something that big to turn into a big monster. I just can't. I don't. It
reminds you of a sci-fi
me personally,
movie.
I don't think they can do that. I don't think they have the power to go from this big to maybe a fallen angel has the power to do that. But I don't think I think the gray aliens are like drones. I think they're just made by
they are androids.
By Nephilim or by humans or made by both humans and humans. But just going into this with this whole thing, because I was trying to get into this story now, this whole Dogman thing, for the people that are listening, this is a very like when I talk about this, this is 100% true. Now, does anybody know who Alexander the Great is? I hope so, because we're going to talk about that really quick. Alexander the Great. During Alexander's campaign into India and the Far East, it was said he encountered many strange peoples, including giants with one eye, cyclops, men with no heads and faces on their chest, those are called blemmies, and notably dog-headed humanoids who lived in isolation beyond the boundaries of the known world. Now, I want to get into a little bit of detail of what Alexander described when he met these things. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Greek historians and travelers, I can't remember butcher's name, Ctesias Megasthenes, and later Roman authors like Pliny the Elder also described dog-headed men living in India, but not all as savages. Some of them were cultured, believe it or not. Now, check this out. According to Ticestis, whatever that guy's name is, 5th century BC, the dog-headed men of India spoke only through barking, but were highly intelligent, wore animal skins, lived in structured societies, and maintained law and order, traded spices, herbs, and rare goods with neighboring human kingdoms, were skilled hunters and warriors, often using javelins or short spears, lived in fortified towns with families, rules, and even religious rituals. That's crazy. These are dog-headed men. Wow. And just a little bit more. They were even doing international trades with humans, according to the the memoirs of Alexander the Great. Human merchants would visit their cities, and while the Cenocephali, which is the scientific word for dog-headed men, could not speak in human tongues, they would communicate through signs and gestures. So they're using hand sign language. They were said to be honest and loyal. And trade, although somewhat territorial. Sounds like a dog to me, right? Some texts even suggest they paid taxes to local Indian kings or acted as border guardians. You tell me, guys, what do you think about that? I mean, that's right there directly from Alexander the Great's memoirs, man.
Hmm. Well, I know that. Go ahead, Dominic. Did you have something to say,
Yeah,
my
go
friend?
ahead.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead,
I'm just
Dominic.
I was just listening. I mean, this
Mhm.
all proves that there's been these cryptids all throughout history, including Bigfoot,
Hmm.
and these dogmen, not only Alexander the Great but Marco Polo.
Christopher Columbus as well, and on it
So
goes.
it just keeps going. And what with these Bigfoot, I think they are interbreeding with humans, even probably today. And there was an episode I saw, and what sat with me is when Scott Carpenter says that the Black Ops have like a thing called the zoo,
Hmm.
where they're actually recreating these cryptids, these Bigfoot and these dogmen. And maybe with the technology they tell us now that we have with the Neuralink coming up, how do we not know that they're using some kind of technology way ahead of that and controlling these Bigfoot, a
Hmm.
chip in their head or something, or his dogman, and there's the
Hmm.
possibilities are just unlimited, because what we see now, the Black Ops is probably 100 years ahead of that already, maybe 50 years,
Hmm.
100 years ahead. So we don't know what they're doing. Maybe they are recreating the Nephilim according to Scott Carpenter, and the original Nephilim were probably like the Horites. They're
Hmm.
in the Old Testament, the hairy cave dwellers. And we move forward now into Bigfoot. Bigfoot's been around a long, long time. Um, and you're talking about the giants. The giants were here before the Native Americans, when they called the United States Turtle Island.
Hmm.
And we go on and on and on throughout ancient history about what happened here. And there was a war between these giants and the mound builders, um, with the Atlanteans. It
Hmm.
says, because there was an ethnographer, his name always escapes me, but he found bones, like I think it was 30 or 50 acres wide. It's nothing but bones. Like a major
Wow.
battle happened, and they found the structure of the supposed Atlanteans, and their structure was a lot different, like more
Hmm.
slender. And
Hmm.
they found the bones of the giants, of the mound builders. So man, you know what? Bigfoot is not that hard to understand. It is a creature, in my opinion. It is a Nephilim. It can appear and reappear. What always stuck with me too, and another guy is Jonathan Dover, the Navajo Ranger, when he says these things came up from the ground like smoke, like a black shadow
Hmm. Hmm.
entity, then formed into a solid creature and walked off. And when
Hmm.
he tracked it, I think with his friend Stan, I don't know, several miles in the sand. You can see everything in the sand, and they just stop. Was that another portal, or does this thing just go back into the earth?
Hmm.
And you got Bigfoots associated with UFOs. You know,
Hmm.
they're always seen. Sometimes they're seen by UFOs, and that's my whole thing. That when people start talking about UFOs, the elder race, or angels from God, and all this stuff, and they're associated with the Bigfoot, I think these you're talking about the Greys, and I remember when Karen Wilkinson was talking about when she was taken through this pathway with all these vats of hybrids being grown, and as she walked, she saw suits of these little gray suits.
Hmm.
So I think what they're wearing with the big eyes, and this goes back to another guy, the military guy, I forgot his name, but he says these eyes, they have it's like a contact lens, and
Hmm.
when they take them out, when they took them off, they looked through it, and everything looked oranged. It was night vision, orange at night.
Hmm.
And what does the military have now? They've gone to more of an orange, more advanced
Hmm.
than the green hue. So this is so it's convoluted, so much stuff going on with Bigfoot,
Hmm.
and I think that they're also part of when the Bible says men's hearts will fail for what's coming on the earth, and I think that Bigfoot's going to come up out of the earth. I think Dogman, Goatman, uh, satyrs, whatever people see out there, Pigman, Horseman, I don't know. There's all kinds of stories out there. I think they're going to reappear on the earth, and they may be a part of Satan's army, well, along with the angels. When in Revelation, when Satan the dragon, he knocks out a bunch of starry hosts of God's kingdom, and he starts trampling on them. And this is the time when Michael stands and they start fighting.
Hmm.
And that's when Satan's thrown out of heaven for good onto the earth. Because we know he goes to and fro right now. He's still in the second heaven. He's still on the earth. His kingdom, which he does have a kingdom in Matthew 12. For me, that's in the earth. You talk about Argartha. You talk about the hollow earth. I think Satan's kingdom is Agartha and Shambhala, whatever it's called. I think that's where he is in the earth. And what a good point that Gary Wayne told me, and I had to really think about this. People talk about Nibiru, right? He says Nibiru is not out there in space. He says Nibiru is in the earth. Does that make sense? It's not so much for me as a planet. It's a kingdom that's in the earth. It's another kingdom. And he made a good point on that, and I had to really think about that. What does it mean? So I mean, I'm just babbling on, but these are my ideas. And Bigfoot, it was shown to be have human DNA from the woman and the unknown. Well, man, what is that? What's an unknown? I mean, it's got to be one of those fallen angels. And you move forward the hybrid. I think there's original Bigfoot, like the Nephilim versus the Raphaim. And I think those may still exist, maybe 12, 14 feet tall, bigger than the Bigfoot you see now. But when I talked to Ron, we talked to Ron Moorhead. When I asked him about, have you ever come by 6 fingers, prints or whatever? He said, yes. I said, what about feet? He said, yes. I said, do you believe that these Bigfoot are taking like the native women and mating with them? He says, yes. And a lot of the pictures I've seen from Scott Carpenter, these things look almost human. It's really freaky, man. And it just goes on and on and on with the natives. And they know so much that I don't think they're telling us at all. Giants in stasis, and the reservations. And anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents. What do you guys think?
Well, Dominic, I will just say this, that whole concept of what you just spoke about with the Nibiru, it reminds me of the Black Sun, it reminds me of that. And then also when you're talking about these things just vanishing and disappearing without a trace, and they see the prints, you can see where just the ground's eroded back. You can see them. It looks like you can see them running, and all of a sudden they just hit a brick wall, And it makes me think of this when I studied about there was a story in Delaware in the Allegheny River, talking about lizard-like creatures coming out of the water, and then looked like giant men, hairy like men coming out of the water. So just to bring this up, could it be that they have to use water, the airwaves? And you mentioned, well, yeah. And then like light spectrum, you mentioned light spectrum with the lenses, with the military application. I think we might have mentioned Dicecine goggles in the last episode we did. Yeah, the one that they did back in Vietnam War. Yeah, and it's all crazy, right? Had those folks all jacked up, right? So another thing you mentioned earlier, Dominic, talking about that could the military have some type of technology of tagging or whatever. I heard a story not too long ago. You guys are going to crack up. This goes right along with our topic. They call them the Phantom Elite, the Phantom Sentinel Group, like this Phantom, like looking like something off a video game, like Halo, right? These people show up, and there's this narrative in Kentucky where these caves, where people was getting taken to the caves. There was bones everywhere. I mean, it was just horrible. We got to watch what we say on YouTube here, but there was a lot of things going on. They supposedly sent just average military groups. They couldn't even hold back these creatures. According to the account, they seen hieroglyphs on the side of the walls, down the pillars, and it looked like dog-like men. There was insignia on the wall, like Lionel's talking about here. And then what was so wild, one person barely made it out of this so-called encounter of these individuals, and they make it to the end of the cave, and then they're calling for backup, and all of a sudden this like odd looking helicopter shows up, and these folks jump out looking like something off of Halo, have plasma rifles, and they're black. They're going to town. They're going
to like some high tech weapons and armor.
Yeah, or what? Yeah, wow. Vance. It was black hop, like a black black budget project, and they call them the Phantoms, right? And they go in there and start blasting these things. Well, like a couple of them die. Even those guys die, and they was able to eradicate this so-called cryptid. Well, according to the account, these phantoms, they go hunt cryptid creatures. Like once the signature pops up, and once they find them, they start blasting. So I've always thought about this. The Kandahar giant, the Kandahar giant just makes no sense to me, because it was wearing 500-year armor. Okay, like Roman armor in the early 2000s, according to the count, and these men
that
go and try.
Does have a lot of people that were there. So I know people that went to the military and they were in Iraq. They didn't see it, but it was like a big conversation that everybody was like something like a fight happened at school. Everybody knows. And the one thing that stuck with it is that he said he saw, like they all saw the little cam. I guess you can't find them on the internet, and I guess you can see some big like guy that looks pale, but that's all I gotta say. I'm not saying whatever you're saying is true or not, but I just want to tell you that I know people that were like, oh dude, I heard about all this stuff when they were in Iraq, but they weren't there, but it was like the conversation. But anyway.
Well, I just think, here's what I'm saying. That if he was wearing 500-year armor, do you guys think, like you said a minute ago, Lionel, about, we was talking about the Nunnehï and what have you, like you think these things are literally physical beings, like I do too, but I think there's a little mix of spiritual and physical, which we both would agree, because we both have that common ground and believe in the biblical narrative. And I would say this Kandahar giant showed up. You see what I'm saying? Like just appeared interdimensionally, like signature, and couldn't get back. Because let's just face it, you think that thing's going to just sit there and wait, and there was nobody around, like, oh yeah, there's been food missing or whatever.
Have you looked into that story though? Because there's a little stuff that you're missing. So the story, all the locals they knew about this thing, and
they're traumatized by it.
But they would give it offerings and food all the time, so they were worshiping it. So to me, that means it's been there for a while.
True, but 500, but here's the thing: 500 years. Think about it.
How do you know they didn't make the armor for him?
That's exactly right. 100% correct. But
if they were already giving them food and they were offering and they were worshiping it, it's not.
And taking scrap to make it. True fact. I can't deny that. And I appreciate.
Is it real though? I really don't know. I'm just like I said. I know people that heard about it that were in Iraq when it happened. My friend said that everybody saw this little video. He tried showing to me on the internet. It's all wiped, so we can't even watch the video to confirm it for ourselves. But there used to be a video up like 15 years ago. It just looked like, but you see like this big guy, and that's about it. But how much information can you get from that little thing? Probably not much.
Exactly. And I remember they had a Chinook that came and had a pallet, and it was like a 1,500-pound creature, so to speak. I think that's what it was. But yeah, that did slip my mind. I think you bring that back up. But my point is like, could they have just been, I don't know, was they so fearful of it? Was they worshiping the being and giving the food and paying homage to it, just like I was referring to earlier with the Nunnehï? Like, did they say that this is some kind of like man god?
Out of fear, maybe?
Out of fear.
Out of fear,
True. But they know darn well that the military had such a presence in Iraq. Yeah. Like any moment it was going to happen, right?
Yeah, they're probably hiding it too at the same time.
Agreed, maybe. Either way, it's all speculation on our part. I mean, but what you brought up is solid. I remember that now, and it's been a while, so appreciate you bringing that up. But speaking of the Dogman, okay, in Kentucky, I know a gentleman that's wrote books on this and what have you. But have you guys ever heard Beast of the Land Between the Lakes? It's the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes. It's a Wolfman Dogman story.
No,
it's in Western Kentucky. Okay, so according to the tale of it, it's literally a 7-foot tall bipedal creature resembling a half man, half dog man, half wolf man, right? Human-like hands and literally claws. You're talking about something off the movie Underworld. If you guys have ever seen that, the vampire concept and all that, since you guys are in Los Angeles or in California. And so the legends include Native American stories that this is a shape-shifting creature. So once again, Lionel, there you go, my friend. So, and this has been going on since the 19th century. Okay. The European settler that was literally, there was a lot of, like you said earlier, is it made up? Is it true? Is it what have you? But there's been too many accounts, and the account that's really wild is in 1973. They refer to this reports of encountering this creature through literally like either getting attacked, fear tactics, people being their vehicles, something getting tore down, houses, whatever. vandalism. They thought it was just some crazy person in the woods, right? So they would leave like shredded clothes and blood and no bodies. This is what's so eerie about it. And this was going on in the 70s, 80s, that there'd be just clothing, but shredded up, blood everywhere. And you hear this account all the time when it comes to the big wild men, the big bears, what have you. And so the report is like, they don't know if it's like, they don't have no paw prints, no nothing. Okay. This is so crazy and bizarre. So it's a cryptid creature legend in the Kentucky narrative. And it reminded me of what I referred to earlier with the phantoms. So like, is there something going on? You hear this all the time, guys. You hear that these shapeshifters, the gentleman that wrote a book about it, they even refers to it too, that these entities can like turn back into a human, like, and live amongst us. And like you said earlier, Lionel, talking about that they pay homage and like pay taxes and everything. Are we living? Listen, I mean, who's the power of the elites? Who are these people? Are they just, that's why they have so much dominion. Like it's almost like they have so much power. But, you know, just to get on the spiritual thing of Jesus, we become the sons of God because of what Christ did on the cross at Calvary. So we have that power. So we have that ability to see through let's just say we have our lenses on, right? A new pair of vision glasses, so to speak. in my case, Lionel's over messing with me, but in my case, that is legitimate. But like what I'm saying is you in a spiritual sense, right? So the power of the air, the airways, the water, everything, all these elemental spirits, the stoichion, you like, what if it's just so simple? So simple, like we've been made in the image of God, and these other creatures, like you alluded to earlier about the redeeming of these creatures, that's in the God's hands. I don't know, man. It's above my pay grade. But my point is these things are interacting with us in some shape or form, and we have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge that these things have been through ancestral DNA, what have you, whatever it is. Like, you know, the Nunnehï, the Cherokee. I mean, who knows? I don't know what you guys have. Like our family tree is so deep, guys. Like it's just so hard to keep up with who's what and how many nationalities. I have different nationalities in my bloodline, right? And it's just it makes you wonder what's really going on, right? You can't narrow it down. We don't have time machines, right? We can't do it. So I'm going to get you going because I know our time is limited. So first of all, I just want to throw this out here. I have a lovely cup. I'm not promoting it. It's a cup that my children gave me, and it's got a monkey on it. It's got a monkey on it, right? It's got a monkey.
Hell no, I'm just kidding.
It's got a monkey on it. This is from I'm not going to say the restaurant, but there's a restaurant that we went to not too long ago in Tennessee. So it's a restaurant, and their mascot's a monkey. So I'm just letting y'all know, all the viewers,
not
Bigfoot, just a monkey.
God's monkey.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to verify that. So I didn't want to get no flack from everybody. Here's Lionel and Dominic talking about Sasquatch. He's rocking that Sasquatch cup.
Dude,
no, it's a monkey.
All you need is a UFO shirt that says "Abduct me." You know, those people that wear those dumb shirts.
Oh yeah,
clown.
But so go ahead, Lionel. But I do have something to really throw at you guys.
No, go ahead,
I think it's
throw it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I hope I didn't interject, and I always want to be respectful because I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come back on here again.
I want to hear what you got to say. What were you going to say?
So, two things. Before we get into the real deep of this. Mm-hmm. I know you guys have heard of the Book of Enoch. I know you guys have heard about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay?
Yeah, Enoch.
So we're going to rock that here in a few moments.
Okay.
But to go back to what Dominic was saying about light, right? Air, water, what have you, all these creatures vanishing from our peripheral. They now have concluded, they have now basically brought this up into our modern time, that you can see sound at a certain frequency, yes, but you can see also in the dark humans at a certain frequency that they emanate some type of light in the dark. So there you go on that. So just think about that one. Because if the creatures are able to see you, because, you know, when you hear about the Sasquatch encounter, they'll throw rocks. You hear this all the time, rocks being thrown. It's because of vibration. I kid you not, I think about it, because they're like, if they really wanted to be territorial or dominant, they just take off running. You know what I mean? Just sprint, you know, the strength that you're talking about, Dominic, Lionel. And, you know, just think about what we're saying. You just grab and conquer, right? But they're waiting and they're watching, observing. It's almost like we have to give them permission. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to start getting fearful. I'm going to start getting stressful. And they, this has been documented. The animals can even sense this. They sense when we're stressed. They sense when we're angry. They sense these things. So we're talking about creatures that are abominations or whatever they are, whatever type of creature they have been manifest into. They have intellect and intelligence that we can't even, our brains don't even process it. So when you see that, you have to think about, on an animal standpoint, these creatures have fleshly bodies, and they probably have an intuitiveness that we can't even process. So let me take you down a rabbit hole, but it's legit because it's a lot of stuff I've looked into when it comes to archaeology and what have you. So when you think about have you ever thought about the lizard-like creatures, right? We haven't even mentioned the reptilians. So have you guys ever heard of, I know you've heard of, he's passed now, but Tom Horn?
Oh yeah.
Tom Horn, The Path of Immortals. So The Path of Immortals is a really good book.
Okay.
And there's a lot to it. There's a article here. Well, it's a little segment here in the book here on page 11, believe it or not. And if you go back and look at what happened in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you talk about Moses' father, Amram. Have you ever heard this about the fragment that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls? There's a fragment. Well, they tried to translate it, and this is referred to in Tom Horn's book, talking about the father of Moses. And there was this chief, angel of darkness, and the watcher name, I think it's called Melkishra. That's how you pronounce it, Melkishra, in the form of a reptilian. Okay.
Oh wow.
So this watcher, okay, according to the Amram's dream, he was seeing these visions. These watchers had a vision, and they was in his vision, his dream, and there was two of them. Okay. And they argued about Moses' daddy, Amram. Okay. And they were engaged in a great quarrel concerning Amram. Okay. And they asked them, Amram, what are you? And it just it goes in and out because the fragments couldn't be translated. And it says about me, it's just blanking out because of the way that it's translated. They couldn't figure the words out. They answered and said to me, we have been made masters and ruled over all the sons of men. And they said, me? Which of us do you choose? And then according to the account, Amram raised his eyes and saw one of them. His looks were frightening, like those of a viper. Okay. And his garments were multicolored. Here we go, Dominic. He's referring to light, different colors. And it was extremely dark. So there's a whole nother topic. And afterwards I looked, and behold, by his appearance and his face was like that of an adder, of a venomous snake. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And he was covered in blank together, and his eyes blank. So apparently this is a reptilian watcher. And it just seems like a creature that is human-like, looking to like a messenger.
Yeah.
And did you guys know that has nothing to do with Tom Horn and his great study? The guy was a legend. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you guys know that I did some digging there a couple years ago with, remember John Hall, and I was on the cutting edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some tablets when you look into the Indian Native American realm, and you look at the different types of things that these Indians, Adians, this is mainly the Adians, what I'm referring to today. They would look at these certain tablets, like these Adian tablets, as made of slit stone, and some are made of sandstone. Okay, so slit stone is very durable. Okay, it's a very let's just say it's one of the higher end types of stone. Okay, it's not nothing. I wouldn't say that it's a piece of concrete. So according to the account of these Adians, they believed that the earth was like a layered universe. Okay. So these tablets, like the Wilmington tablet, all these tablets are found in these Indian mounds, guys. It's crazy. Like when you find the Indian mound, and I've studied this a lot, but we're talking about the Nephilim now, but when you have these mounds with the strategically laid tablets inside of them with the longitude, latitude written on it. They've even been translated into English language. I couldn't believe it. It was fascinating to me. So according to this account, they talk about the earth is suspended between a sky world. There you go, Dominic. He was talking about the Argotha, right? And about, the devil and Satan, the black sun, the Nibiru, and all that in the earth, which is a totally different rabbit hole, but yeah, it's similar. That the sky world and the watery world, the watery underworld, and it refers to these mystical beings representing as these two worlds. There's these heavenly birds, and then there's these human raptor birds. Okay.
What?
And and these raptors are birds of prey.
So
Okay. They're like,
cockatrice then.
that's exact. You got it. You nailed it, Lon. Come on, man. Come on. You got it, man. So like falcons or eagles, and we're linked to the sky world. Underwater monsters and horned serpents were linked to the underworld. And then raptors of images engraved in the Indian tablets. So what was so wild about it? It was the symbolism behind it, right? It was referring to mythical beings, sheet copper, and there's these antlers, Cineros from the demon god. You got all that crap going on. I use that term. That's a Kentucky slang. But you think about this and you look more onto it, and it had sheets of copper antlers. You have mica, which is very prominent in here in Kentucky. But what was so weird about it is like the when the imagery of the tablets was looking face to face, what blew my mind the most was like when I looked more into it, you'd see the face of a human in a face of like a snake-like man. And the man, and interpreting what I could figure out in the English language, he said, "Oh no," and it's like spiraling, like he's like going somewhere. Like it's literally got him. Like he's face to face with the dead. Like let's just say back to this account of the fragment of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he's this vipers. These two entities are fighting over Amram, Moses' daddy. So what is it? So it's a battle of flesh and blood. Is it a battle of flesh and blood? No, it's Ephesians 6 verse 12. When we're not battle against flesh and blood, we're battle against principalities and wickedness and darkness. So you're facing it. It's facing off, right? And you think about like when the devil in the book of Jude and talks about the devil is fighting Michael over disputing over Moses's body. Isn't that crazy? So they're debating over either the physical sense of his body, or his physical body. And then you have, or excuse me, spiritual or physical. But then you have this account with the Dead Sea Scrolls where you have these viperous creatures trying to grab Amram. And it's like, this is detrimental to the Moses account and all the different biblical things. You have these raptors trying to disrupt all of God's creation, and it's accounted for in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So my point is why is these things found in the Aedean tablets and talking about we're facing these raptor-like creatures? Because what if here's the thing, what if it's one and the same? And this is what we're getting at through this whole podcast. Like these cryptids, we are entertaining them, but they can't. It's like a game of cat and mouse. So I will tell you this one thing, and I won't disclose it because I'm going to mention it at SpiracyCon. I'm going to mention this at SpiracyCon on the stage. I'm going to talk about something that happened to me in 2004. But I once upon a time seen one cryptid creature in my life, just one. And I was in a situation where in a heightened state. Okay. So we have to ask you two here on this podcast, could it be ancestral DNA? Could it be tied to that? Could it tied to that? Here's the one thing we should say. Is it because we are a child of the King? Is it because we love Jesus Christ? Is it, that's, what I'm saying? Like they're like kind of hovering around and we're talking about them, and these other folks, not putting anybody down, they might not have the Holy Ghost. They might not, and these things are seeing them, or vice versa, or it's just a mixed bag. We can only say, and Scott Carpenter, he loved the Lord. And he was like combating them in all kinds of different ways of praying and anointing his land. Every time he get in the bed, before he goes to bed, he was anointing his land and keeping them back. And he's like going to war with them, right? In a spiritual sense, right? So let's just say hypothetical, these things are manifesting. Let's just say they're taking physical form, turning into human beings and running the flock. Let's just say that they've been masquerading as angels of light and masquerading as humans and telling us to pay taxes or whatever it is, like you alluded to earlier. And what if this all is just one big, like masquerading as a demonic realm? Because this is literally, let's just face it, guys. This is the devil's playground, folks. And like, but we have to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, and grinding through it, man. We have to like go through the maze because we have the prize at the end of the day, right? With Jesus, like at the right hand of the Father, we're going to be with the Lord, right? So we have to battle this battleground. And I think these, when you talk about these raptor-like beings, these cryptid-like beings, I think it's literally either genetic. I think it's either stress. Like, for example, if you're like in a heightened state of like fear or a heightened state of like impending doom coming upon your head, there's all kinds of accounts, guys. I've researched them where they there's this person saying, hey, I've had this really bad day. I go out to the woods to just give me a cup of coffee, take a smoke break, and all of a sudden this hail starts coming. Like, stuff starts flying out every which way. I've heard all kinds of accounts like that. I went a little long there, but what's your all's take on that with the raptors and all that, and what I just, compiled into one big box?
Go
What
ahead,
do you
Dominic.
gentlemen think? What do you think?
Well, I think anything's possible in this space. Yeah, I was aware of the Dead Sea Scrolls that you read about the serpents. For me, these are probably fallen seraphim angels,
Mm-hmm.
and their viper looks. And I don't know why. I don't know why these creatures exist and that look like that. These seraphim angels. I don't know. But if you notice in the Bible, it talks about like the cherub, the cherubim. You got 4 different faces: an oxen and bull and a man, and whatever. And when you look at other parts of the Bible, it's got fiery chariots and horses of fire. We don't know why God. Maybe He loves animals. Maybe
Amen.
maybe these fiery horses are angelic.
Hmm.
And we go further when you look into all this connects to going back to the topic was Bigfoot and paying homage. And I don't know if people understand this, but we were told this, that when you see these structures in the woods, these little wooden structures, and people go and put Snicker bars or fruit or apples, it's like paying homage to these
Yep.
things, right?
It's that simple.
And this goes all the way back to worshiping the old gods back in the Old Testament, the gods of the Amorites,
Mm-hmm.
and Sford and social, and whatever. So I think a lot of this stuff connects to the bottom line is it's kind of like worshiping the giants of old. They became the kings of kingdoms. People paid homage to them because of their power, and that's nothing different than Deuteronomy when these angels went, the sons of God, because God didn't want to deal with them anymore. He says, you know what, let you govern these nations, and people all started paying homage to these sons of God. It's no different to Bigfoot today. When you start, and another thing too is, I think people who are agnostic, atheists, whatever other religion other than believing in Christ, I think when they go out and look for these things, I want to say that they're safe from demonic attack, because the devil already has them. You don't have to believe in anything; you still go to hell, right? You don't believe in anything, and the devil likes to say, like, "Oh, we don't believe in anything, so yeah, whatever." But people who are Christians, like Scott Carpenter and other people, who go out there and look for these things. They're inundated with shadow demons in their home. A lot of them get sick. A lot of them even die. And it's like playing with the Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
Once you go looking for these entities, you're opening a black door that you don't know how to close. And you probably you doomed yourself, because
Oh, you can't close it.
I think when you know better as a Christian to go looking out for these things, the Bible says don't go seek these things out. I believe he leads you to that reprobate mind. All right, you don't want to listen to me? Go do what you're going to do, and this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I 100%. So yeah, just really quick, guys. Got about 10 minutes left, so I just want to kind of give my last words out there. I'll let Brian go after and Dominic, but I just want to put out there that the whole point of this podcast is to talk about these things through a different point of view, and not talk about them like there's some kind of superhero and we want to be like them. No, that is so far from reality. If you're a Christian and you're thinking that way, you have been completely turned the wrong way. And you may not want to hear it, but just stop, slow down, and look around you. Look at your Bigfoot t-shirt, look at your UFO, whatever toys you got, look at your computer history. If everything is about that, then you have a problem. You're obsessed with it. And I'm sorry, but if that is your obsession and you call yourself a Christian, you're 100% in denial, and you're 100% wrong by talking about these things in that way and trying to sell merchandise. And to me, wearing a Bigfoot shirt, Dogman shirt, reptilian shirt is no different than wearing a big old Baphomet shirt. What's the difference? Honestly, what is the difference? Nothing, right? Baphomet's a demon, Bigfoot's a demon, Dogman's a demon. It's all the same thing. So don't do that. It's very simple. do sometimes we make mistakes? Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect. You know, for example, I'm probably going to see the new Jurassic Park movie. Probably shouldn't be giving money to those people, but you know, I try, you know, little by little, I'm pulling away from the world things. I don't listen to certain music no more. I don't wear certain things. I don't go to certain places. It's something that you learn little by little as you walk with your faith with Christ. You don't get baptized and boom, everything goes away. No, it takes time. You need to sanctify yourself with your baptism and with your relationship with God, and on and on and on it goes. You will get there little by little. Just trust the process. That's all I have to say for my last words. What you got?
Well, I just want to thank you both again for allowing me to come on here. And it's always a pleasure, and it's pleasant. I enjoy the podcast. I always enjoy coming on here. It's my second time, but I'm really enjoying it, and hope we get to come back. And but yeah, I just want to thank you both. But yeah, just to kind of sum everything up here, you know, kind of like what you just said, Lionel, and then Dominic. You know, it's kind of interesting when you interact. Isn't it just so bizarre that it's every time the humans? Just think about this. You have to have the interaction with humans for it to work. Like you understand, like anything. It doesn't matter if we can go back to the ancient days of Egypt, ancient days of, you know, Samaritan people, whatever. You know, we can go back, and there's always in interacting with the human stance. You know, the sons of God, interaction with the humans. You know, it's always the interaction with the humans. So then you got to ask yourself, the world makes it out to be that we're not special. Like humans are not special. I would say we are special because everything we have, if this world would not operate if we wasn't here. Like we observe it, we touch it, we feel it, we use all of our senses, our God-given abilities that God has literally put into our architect work of our anatomy and our brain and everything. It all runs like an engine, right? But everything that was interactive that comes in, that was here before literally before the flood, that they're waking back up, it's all coming back around the bend, so to speak. And you have, you know, as it was in the days of Noah, so should it be. Like it's coming around back again. So this stuff's being reawoken. It's being reawakening into our society, and the tentacles are going every which way. And it's hard to see blurriness between the lines when it comes to the AI and the mechanisms. Yes, I see that. But even us interacting here, guys, you guys are on the West Coast. I'm over on the East side of America. So we're actually coming together as one body, right? Like the Bible says, coming together as one body. And there's Jesus in the midst of us, right? So we're coming together, and it's just through the digital airways, right? Look how much advancements, but there's good to use for it. Like Lionel keeps reiterating during the whole program, this is good to bring this stuff up and good to bring a different perspective. It's a blessing, man. Like you have to be straightforward about it, direct. Like you said, Lionel, I agree with you, man. It's no different. It really isn't. It really isn't, man. And I thank you for sharing that. And thank you for calling. Hey, thank you for getting me on the Kandahar thing too, man. Mine was a little slipping. And I appreciate you being so kind and very, just a cool host, dude. And if you don't mind for me to take a moment, you're going to be at SpiracyCon, aren't you? You're going to be at SpiracyCon?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you guys, all your listeners out there, Lionel will be a speaker on the main stage, and we're going to be blessed to have him. And I can't wait to meet you in the flesh, my friend. I'm going to throw out a coupon code that is get 12% off. Coupon code Lionel 2025, and it's not capitalized letters, it's lowercase. Lionel 2025. Check that out. Plug that in spiracycon.com, and you'll be able to get 12% off your ticket sales, so you can go and see Lionel in the flesh and all of us. And I would be blessed by that too, because I get to see you all too. So thanks for collaborating with me and allowing me to be on Sabbath Midnight. But yeah, these things are real. These creatures are real. And the interaction of man, we need to be awoken to the, awakening to the understanding that these things have knowledge that so precedes us. But we do know that the Lord Almighty and then the Holy Spirit can bring things back to our remembrance. Like he can literally give us just infinite amount of knowledge if he chooses to do that. But we don't have to take on the outside sources and say, hey, like Lionel keeps talking about, hey, let's build a statue and start worshiping and licking its toes. You know what I'm saying? Come on, has he got 6 toes? You know, give me a big bear hug. You know, hey Sasquatch, hey, hey Yogi. You know, but other than that, yeah, I mean, I see where we have to really disconnect from all that and really get back on the understanding that we can't be looking to these things as heroes. We need to look at Jesus as a hero. That's the one that saved everything, all mankind, from this sin that we are just embedded in. We got to get away from all this and really turn back to Jesus. And really, and when you say it, you mean it. You mean it. You don't just sit there and just go on a big old tangent and rant. You like mean what you say, you know, and really, and just get back to the basics of being a good follower of Jesus Christ. I mean, it really is. You know, and sorry to go a big rant there, but I'll give the floor back to you guys. But I just want to say thank you for having me on the podcast, Lionel and Dominic. It's always a pleasure, my friends. Mm-hmm.
So it's good having you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but I got to get going here. I've got another meeting to do, but thank you for coming on. I appreciate you guys. Thank you to my audience, Dominic, Brian. I will see you guys very soon. I'm your host, Lionel Tavares from the Sabbath at Midnight. God bless everybody.
Finally, I feel alive, and I know why. Cause I'm giving all the glory to the Most High. They don't wanna hear the truth, that is no lie. If we ain't in the last days, then we're close by. The devil's trying to snatch your soul, and it's not a game. You hear me saying Jesus Christ, and it's not in vain. They might get offended every time I drop his name, but I'ma let them know that I'm not ashamed. That's right, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Even if I know it'll be making them hostile. Thinking about the persecution of apostles. They wanna see his people in the dirt with the fossils. You may be thinking that might sound extreme, but you gotta ask yourself, is this life what it seems? People suffering for Christ in this world full of schemes and agendas. Would you give your life for the king? Give it up. Martyrdom, yeah, that really is a thing. Better look it up if you don't believe, got what I mean? We gotta try our hardest not to be so naive and be mindful of the children and people that bleed for the name of Christ. The only one that can save your life. He saved mine never once, gotta thank him twice. The amount of 1,000 thanks in a day, knowing I gotta give him more praise when I pray. Finally, I feel alive, and I know why. Cause I'm giving all the glory to the Most High. They don't wanna hear the truth, that is no lie. If we ain't in the last days, then we're close by. The devil's trying to snatch your soul, and it's not a game. You hear me saying Jesus Christ, and it's not in vain. They might get offended every time I drop his name, but I'ma let them know that I'm not ashamed. Can't be content with just church on Sunday, or just going through the motions, cause one day I'ma have to give account for my time spent, and where my empty words and all of that pride went. Calamity bringing clarity. Seems like a good church these days is a rarity. 1 out of 7 in the book of Revelation. A perverse generation on the verge of devastation. A sign of the times, realizing that I'm in danger if I don't put my mind to the grind and do a work for the Lord. Every verse is a sword. Overseas there is people getting murked for the Lord. Imagining the whole church in the court, death itself shortly after rebirth in the Lord. Rapping for Christ like I wanna be his hype man, and I know opportunities have a lifespan. Finally I feel alive, and I know why. Cause I'm giving all the glory to the Most High. They don't wanna hear the truth, that is no lie. If we ain't in the last days, then we're close by. The devil's trying to snatch your soul, and it's not a game. You hear me saying Jesus Christ, and it's not in vain. They might get offended every time I drop his name, but I'ma let them know that I'm not ashamed.
The idea is trusting in God even when it doesn't make sense. From 2 Timothy 1 verse 12, this is why I am suffering as I am, yet I am not ashamed, because I know whom I have believed. I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. I am not ashamed, he says. I'm not ashamed